KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your blood.
Following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. 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 Twice emotional stability, a sound body and tranquility. I deserve it all. Like minds and less enemies. Stock investments, more entities. I deserve it all. VVS's white diamonds, GNX with the seat back reclining. I deserve it all. Put my homes on the beachfront. Flying private, what you eat for lunch. I deserve it all. The respect and the accolades. Lamping on the island, watching Castaway. I deserve it all. For every good that passed away, sent 2.5 million on the average day. I deserve it all. Keep my name by the world leaders. Keep my crowds loud inside a beat. So I deserve it all. More money, more power, more freedom. Everything heaven allowed us. I deserve it all. I deserve it all.
You sure do. Listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host and White House correspondent, Dr. Nii-Quartelai reporting for duty. How can we not enjoy the brilliance, the genius of Kendrick Lamar? Thanks to my brother and sound engineer, Andy, for giving us a little dose of Man at the Garden on the latest Kendrick album. If you have an opportunity, go check Kendrick out. I'm trying to check Kendrick out in Maryland before he goes overseas. A lot of folks buzzing about his U.S. tour. If it's anything like the album, it's going to be fire. And so get on that. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, if you haven't already, go ahead and download the KBLA app. And if you have, tell your neighbor to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast while you're at it, powered by KBLA Talk 1580, the only Black-owned and operated talk station west of Mississippi. Hello. And you got Juneteenth plans? I hope that KBLA is a part of the plan. And if we're not, well, I want you to reconsider. Our KBLA Talk 1580 4th anniversary events are approaching, and seating at all four of our special events is getting tight. Have you registered at our KBLA1580.com website? Well, if not, let me encourage you to stop and do it right now. Just do it right now. Get out the way so you don't get left out. It's our 4th anniversary, and we want to celebrate with you. And if you're planning to join us for our 4th anniversary celebration and barbecue on the Juneteenth holiday, we're asking everyone to bring a food gift card of any amount for the victims of the Altadena fire. Whether it's a grocery store chain or a restaurant, we're grateful for whatever you bring to help the families that are still displaced by the wildfires. So go to our KBLA1580.com website right now and sign up for the events that you plan to attend. All of our anniversary events, every last one, are free, but seating is limited. So you got to register. Thanks in advance for doing that. Now it's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, the Guardian reporting that millions of legal immigrants' lives have been upended after a Social Security freeze. That's right. Millions of legal immigrants may be left unable to work after the U.S. Social Security Administration quietly instituted a rule change to stop automatically issuing them Social Security numbers. The Enumeration Beyond Entry program is an agreement between the Social Security Administration and the Department of Homeland Security, where the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service would provide Social Security with information from applicants for work authorization or naturalization. Now, the program began in 2017 under the first Trump administration, but without any public notice. On March 19th, the program was halted, affecting millions of immigrants every year and burdening Social Security Administration offices, as those applicants will now have to visit Social Security Administration offices and apply separately to receive a Social Security number. So let's get this straight. Lines at the Social Security offices are already long. Last time I was in LA, I drove past a Social Security office. I think it's on Wilshire and Highland, somewhere over there. And I noticed for the first time, like, wow, that's a long line of people at the Social Security office. Well, that line is going to get even longer with this latest move. Without any public notice, again, they halted this program. It's affecting millions of people. Following the freeze, the Trump administration issued a memo on April 15th aimed at preventing undocumented immigrants from receiving Social Security benefits, but providing no evidence of it being a problem. And so here we go. There's a pattern and practice here, right? It's a problem looking for a solution, right? A problem that is unsubstantiated. Moving along, the Newark mayor is suing New Jersey's top U.S. prosecutor over his detention facility arrest. The Guardian also reporting on this story right here. Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, he sued New Jersey's top federal prosecutors today over his arrest on a trespassing charge, which was later dropped at a federal immigration detention facility. Baraka, who leads New Jersey's biggest city, is a candidate in a crowded primary field for the Democratic nomination for governor. And the lawsuit against Alina Habba, the interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey, coincided with the early voting. Early in-person voting has started in New Jersey. And so, yikes, he's over here suing federal prosecutors while early voting has started in his race to become the next governor of New Jersey. This is the primary election that is happening. His lawsuit seeks damages for false arrest and malicious prosecution. And it also accuses Habba of defamation for comments that she made about his case, citing posts on X in which she said that Baraka, quotes, committed trespass. The lawsuit says that Habba issued a defamatory statement and authorized his false arrest despite clear evidence that Mayor Baraka had not committed the petty offense of defiant trespass. And so we'll continue to keep you posted on how this story develops out of New Jersey. And in overseas news, NBC News is reporting that Israeli forces in Gaza killed dozens of Palestinians seeking aid. That's what health officials are saying at this hour. More than 2 dozen people were killed early Tuesday after the Israeli military opened fire close to an aid distribution point in southern Gaza. Local officials are confirming this. This is the third time in 3 days that Palestinians were killed in the area. Video captured by NBC News crews on the ground showed dead and injured folks being rushed to the Nasser hospital. And at one point, medical workers gathered around a young child whose head was wrapped in bandages. Dr. Ahmed Abu Saweed, an Australian emergency physician, told NBC News that patients' injuries included multiple gunshot wounds, thoracic injuries to the chest, mangled limbs, This is the third such event in the last few days, he said, describing what he called another mass casualty event from a food aid center in Rafah. The hospitals there are overwhelmed. A 5-year-old girl was among the wounded. This is what the doctor on the ground said before abruptly ending that interview. Treat a patient being rushed into the room. That's what's happening on the ground in Gaza. We saw White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt during today's White House briefing really call to question reports of what was happening on the ground there, singling out the BBC News' reporting of what was happening on the ground there. Well, NBC News, a completely different outlet, reporting on what's happening on the ground here. We'll continue to keep you posted. But when we come forward, we're going to keep talking about what's happening on the international affairs front. We got the right one with us, Desirée Cormier Smith, who's no stranger to Los Angeles. She's a daughter of South LA, and she is the granddaughter of the great Larry Aubrey. She is joining us when we come forward to make it make sense. South Africa is still in the news, and we need to understand what's really going on. Desiree's got us covered. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
Love you. Love you.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's.
The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers.
We can help you understand the disease
and give you tips for living a better life.
Find your answers at parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust Febreze car vent clips, featuring 3 distinct intensity settings because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with Febreze Car, I know my car's going to smell amazing. Which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up, Oscar!
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. As we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and so delighted to welcome back to the show Desirée Cormier Smith. She is a co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. We're going to be unpacking the mission and vision of that critical work in just a moment. But it's important that you all know she ain't new to this. She's true to this. She is the former U.S. Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice at the U.S. State Department. She served in that role from 2022 to 2024. It's a groundbreaking role that where she led efforts to promote and advance human rights for people of African descent, indigenous people, marginalized racial and ethnic communities around the world. And I couldn't think of a better person to be in conversation with at the moment than you. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Well, it's great to have you back. First things first, the South African President Ramaphosa, was just here meeting with President Trump at the White House, a meeting that was almost characterized, or I should say was characterized in part as an ambush in the Oval Office, where it seemed pretty clear to me that the South African president made clear that there is no reason for these white South Africans to have refugee status, and that the idea that they were being persecuted, that they were being targeted and murdered, and that the government was, seizing their land. He refuted that. He brought along folks that were part of his cabinet that refuted that, including his Minister of Agriculture, a white man who was a part of the opposing party that decided to join forces with President Ramaphosa. I don't know what else the president or the South African delegation needed to say or do to say this is not true, but the AP is reporting that more white South Africans have arrived in the U.S. under this new refugee program. Desiree, make it make sense.
Now, I can't make it make sense because it doesn't make sense, right? As the South African president explained to President Trump in the Oval Office meeting, the facts do not bear out this supposed genocide of white farmers in South Africa. That is just not consistent with reality. It's not consistent with the data. Yet that didn't seem to convince President Trump. And so therefore, this administration continues to pause all other refugees, actual refugees from actual war-torn countries, fleeing persecution, fleeing genocide, people who are in dire need of safety and refuge, yet they are welcoming white South Africans. It really is just deeply offensive to those who have been going through the process of obtaining refugee status in the United States. It's a lengthy process, right? And many people have been in that process for months, if not years. And yet they have been put on pause since January. And these white South Africans have jumped the queue. And not only did they jump the queue, they received a sort of VIP welcome by the Deputy Secretary of State. That really it just blew my mind. Now, I'm not saying that should not be the standard way we welcome real refugees. It actually should be, right? When we are welcoming people from Sudan who are fleeing genocide, it actually should be at the highest levels of our government and really warmly welcoming them to the United States and talking about how proud we are to welcome them and that we look forward to what they will contribute to this country. That is not what they get. Yet somehow these 59 white South Africans got a VIP reception at Dulles Airport from the Deputy Secretary of State. And this is the other thing that just blows my mind and just sort of goes to show that there is not a real crisis there. If there was really a genocide, you would think more than 59 people would be coming here, right? I mean, you would see thousands of people fleeing and desperate. We didn't see that. We saw people dressed quite comfortably. They looked fine. They weren't in distress coming here. And then the additional ones that came, I think today were like 9. So if it really is that big of a deal and there's a real genocide, you would see hundreds, if not thousands of people actually fleeing. And that's not what we see because there is no genocide.
But you're right. I mean, you're right. You can't make it make sense because it doesn't make sense. And, what is this really about? Now, I have a theory, and I want to test this theory on you.
Okay.
I think this is all a part of a shakedown where I think that the president is trying to do Elon Musk a favor. Elon Musk has a company called Starlink, provides internet, satellite internet to folks around the world. His company has really been in overdrive trying to build their book of business on the continent. And there are certain regulations that make it difficult for Elon Musk's company, Starlink, to do business in South Africa. If they can get a foothold into South Africa, then they suspect that a number of other members of the African Union will quickly follow suit. And so whether or not President Trump attends the G20 summit in November in South Africa, I think he's sort of holding that over the South African president's head. And, to the extent that Elon Musk gets a foothold in South Africa, I think that will ultimately dictate whether or not the president rewards South Africa and the G20 with his presence.
That is an interesting theory. I don't work for this administration, so I can't speak for this administration. I can also only conjure from outside and wonder what the heck is going on. Why are we alienating one of our most important partners on the African continent, South Africa, and claiming falsely that white South Africans are suffering genocide, that the South African government is somehow complicit in this, that they are stealing, expropriating land left and right, and it's so unjust, and then pausing all aid to South Africa. This not only is detrimental to U.S. foreign policy and our bilateral relationships, it's also bad for U.S. business. People don't realize there are over 600 American companies operating in South Africa. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, sort of centers of U.S. investment in sub-Saharan Africa. Nigeria may be a second close if they're not tied neck and neck. But why would we do that? Right? This is a huge investment destination for U.S. companies, and I'm talking major U.S. companies. Coca-Cola, Ford, right? All of these significant U.S. companies usually have their sub-Saharan African bases in South Africa. So all of these efforts to punish, quote unquote, punish South Africa for this quote unquote white genocide really is also going to hurt U.S. interests. And so one has to wonder if there's something else going on.
Yeah, I mean, and right now, I think the unemployment rate in South Africa is somewhere around 40%, right? And so I think
it's higher for young black men in particular.
Yeah, and so I think for folks wondering why the South African president came here and played his politics the way they did, part of it is South Africa can't afford to completely walk away from the United States. Yes, they are doing business with their allies, being Russia and China, among others. But they can't afford to walk away from the United States either.
That's right. That's right. But, I think we also have to recognize that each country is going to do what's in their own interest, right? And so this form of foreign policy of like trying to bully people into doing what the U.S. wants and only what the U.S. wants, it's not going to work. People also, other countries and their leaders have their own constituents. They have their own domestic politics and they have their own priorities. And so this really is not a good way to conduct foreign policy. It actually is quite dangerous. And I think it doesn't do any of the things that President Trump or Secretary Rubio say that they are trying to do, which is to make America safer, more prosperous, and stronger. This does none of those.
Yeah. When we come forward, I really want to dig into the African Growth and Opportunity Act. For folks who are a little less familiar, AGOA, as it's called, is responsible for really not just opening up markets across the diaspora and specifically across the continent, but AGOA is responsible for those 600 businesses, the 600 American businesses that Desiree just mentioned, right?
Yes.
Likely wouldn't have been 600 businesses doing business on the continent if you didn't have the AGOA Act, right? Well, guess what? AGOA expires in September 2025. And African leaders are paying close attention to whether or not the United States Congress, let alone the United States president, has an appetite to continue trade relations by way of AGOA. When we come forward, I want you to connect the dots between AGOA as a mechanism to tap into markets abroad on the continent and Black businesses right here in the United States. Right? It's not just a matter of making ends meet, it's a matter of growing the pie. AGOA helps us to grow the pie. And if AGOA goes away, then there is less pie, maybe even no pie. We'll see what Desiree has to say about that when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The first Black mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma is proposing a reparations plan for descendants of the 1921 race massacre. Mayor Monroe Nichols wants a private trust to fund housing and scholarships, no direct cash.
The Greenwood Trust will raise and facilitate the investment of $105 million in private funds along our road to repair, restoration, and right.
The city council must approve any asset transfers. Washington, D.C. has unveiled Mamie Peanut Johnson Plaza, honoring one of just 3 women to play in the Negro Leagues. The 5'3" pitcher had a 33-8 record in the 1950s. Johnson, who died in 2017, is now memorialized in the city she called home. And Wall Street opens higher today after a strong Monday start to June. Investors shrugged off trade tensions and steel stocks soared after President Trump announced 50% tariffs. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
A crash is wrapped up in commerce on the 5 southbound at Slauson. All lanes are open, but southbound delays are still pretty messy all the way out of Burbank, getting away from just about Olive. It's tough out of Agoura Hills, 101 southbound. Delays from Liberty Canyon Road. And you're on the brakes to the 170-134 split. More slowing in Hollywood from Sunset into downtown Los Angeles. The 2 southbound loading up out of Eagle Rock, leaving the 134 all the way to the 5. And as you make your way along the northbound side of the 5, that drive is loading up all the way out of Commerce from Garfield as you continue in stretches towards Glendale Boulevard.
Every day a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
Former LA Sparks star Candace Parker has a book on the market. It's called The Can-Do Mindset. The book deals with Parker's legendary basketball career from high school in Chicago to college at Tennessee and her 16 seasons in the WNBA, as well as the triumphs and challenges in her personal life. Parker, now 38, is on track to having a very successful career in broadcasting after retiring from the WNBA in 2024. Parker played 13 of her 16 WNBA seasons with the Sparks. She led the Sparks to the WNBA championship in 2016. She also has won titles with the Chicago Sky and Las Vegas Aces, making her the only player to win a WNBA championship with 3 different teams. The Can-Do Mindset should be a good read about a player many people put in the GOAT conversation as the greatest women's basketball player in the game's history. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Keep following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Hi, I'm LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to join us on Saturday, June the 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. as we cut the ribbon on the brand new Enel Woods Park at 8703 South McKinley Avenue. Thanks to a generous donation from Heal the Bay, the park features smart irrigation, stormwater capture systems, and space for local wildlife to thrive. And we've built a walking trail, picnic areas, native landscaping, and quiet spaces for families to gather, relax, and connect. This is part of a much larger effort to expand green spaces across South LA with 3 new parks in the works, a first-of-its-kind community center coming soon, and plans to connect it all through the South LA Greenway. So mark your calendar for Saturday, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and come celebrate a greener, stronger South LA at Enel Woods Park. I'm also pleased to sponsor the Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium, moderated by Tavis Smiley, live on C-SPAN, Wednesday, June the 18th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Just a reminder to sign up right away at the KBLA1580.com website to join me, Mayor Karen Bass, Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager Dove, Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson, Dr. Cornel West, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., the Sierra Club's Ben Jealous, and other Black influencers in the climate and health fields, as we continue to amplify the connection between climate and poor health outcomes for our people. Thank you for listening. I'm Councilman Curran Price.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me.
National news of consequence, informed opinion,
And analysis beyond the headlines.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I am delighted to be in the company of Desirée Cormier Smith. She is a former special representative for racial equity and justice at the U.S. State Department. But these days, she's co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. Desirée, tell the people what Larry Aubrey's granddaughter is doing to advance justice.
Yes.
In your current organization.
Yes. So this organization was born out of this crisis moment that we're in. I was planning to take a nice little sabbatical, take a break after I left the Biden administration, but I couldn't. I mean, we saw on day one these executive orders really targeting Black people, people of color, and anyone else who wasn't straight, white, Christian, or man, right? And so I got together with some of my former colleagues who were also human rights special envoys and special representatives at the State Department. And we said, we got to do something. I mean, they really are targeting our work, our communities in particular. And so we have to organize ourselves. And so we call ourselves the Alliance because there's 8 of us, and we each represent a specific community or specific issue. So there's myself, there's a former special envoy for LGBTQI plus human rights, former special representative for international labor affairs, former special envoy for global youth issues, former ambassador at large for global women's issues, former special envoy for Afghan women and girls, former ambassador for global criminal justice, and the former ambassador for trafficking in persons. Now, mind you, again, there's 8 of us. All of our positions have been eliminated by this administration, all of them. And so we came together in this moment. And so we call ourselves the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice for 2 reasons. Again, the Alliance because we represent specific communities, specific issues. Diplomacy because we are pushing back against this very dangerous isolationist kind of foreign policy that this administration is pursuing. We believe in the benefit of engaging with the global community in a positive, collaborative manner, right? We're not advocating for us to go back to the way things were. We are saying that we need diplomacy, though, to get us to somewhere better. And then justice is imagining what a human rights centered foreign policy, a just foreign policy, an inclusive foreign policy would actually look like. So we are both a crisis response mechanism, but also an opportunity to imagine a better way forward by really centering those who historically have been pushed to the margins.
Oh my goodness. I mean, basically you all are meeting the moment.
We're trying to.
You're trying to meet the moment, and it almost seems as if you all have developed almost like a shadow cabinet of sorts. Basically a shadow sort of contingent of folks whose senior work in the last administration can really help us to chart a more sustainable course into the future, at least while the Trump administration does whatever it is it's doing.
I think it's also important for us to be doing this work because the world needs to see that this foreign policy, these cruel and inhumane policies that this administration is pursuing, that not all Americans agree with that, right? There's still a significant segment in our country, a segment of our population that really does believe that human rights should be prioritized and that every human being, by virtue of being a human, are deserving of equal dignity and equal rights. And we see this administration really chipping away at that in really dangerous ways. And not only here at home, and I think that is what is getting the most attention right now, and rightfully so, because we are all being personally impacted. But what is scariest to me is the way that they're chipping away at those rights, at basic dignity, at justice for populations around the world. And they're doing that without a lot of attention being paid because we're also focused on the domestic issues. Mm-hmm. And so as bad, I was talking to one medical researcher who just stood up an LGBTQI plus center for medical research. And, this is not only, it's so necessary. I mean, some of the statistics she was telling me were really mind-boggling that, for instance, lesbian women are 3 times more likely to have stillbirths. I mean, that is awful, right? And so we need to figure out what is that? What is driving that discrepancy so that we can save lives, right? And we can help lesbian women bring healthy, happy babies into this world. Now, she works primarily with the United States population. Her funding has now been cut off because of this administration's anti-LGBTQI plus positions, right? And she and I were talking, and I said, well, it's awful what's happening to your program, but I wanted to talk to you because as bad as it is for you, imagine how bad it is for LGBTQI plus folks around the world.
That's right.
We can't lose sight of that. And that is true not only for LGBTQI plus folks, it's also true for Black folks around the world, for Indigenous folks around the world. As bad as it is right now to have this administration coming after us, trying to erase us, trying to erase our histories, think about just how awful and how even more vulnerable these populations of people of African descent, of Indigenous peoples are around the world against the power of the U.S. government. It's
Yeah, you're right. It is. And if you are Black and LGBTQ, for example, right, watch out, and yes, the importance of the price of eggs. Yes, that is important. That is a part of our reality, but we've got to be able, to be attentive to the cost of essential goods and the cost of the loss of our civil and human rights.
That's right. That's right. And
there's a cost there too.
There's a huge cost. And I would say that cost is greater, right? Like, it's not more immediate, but it'll be greater in the longer term. And, when we not only begin to lose those rights here at home, but then we begin to encourage other governments around the world to strip away rights similarly for their populations, that actually makes us less safe, right? Like, I don't think people fully appreciate how the moves of this administration in the foreign policy space are really fomenting anti-American sentiment in ways that I don't think we've seen since post 9/11. It's really scary to me. And, and they're doing it with such a cruel and unnecessary ways. I mean, these are unforced errors.
Yeah.
By completely dismantling USAID and taking away life-saving medicine, food for the world's most vulnerable and poorest people, you think that those people are just going to be like, okay, it's fine. We get you, America. Like, the cost of eggs. That is going to absolutely create resentment and anti-American sentiments.
And I've heard many experts say this, that one of the best recruitment programs for terrorism is poverty.
Absolutely.
When you look around the world, look at where the quote unquote hotspots are around the world. And you look at, where the greatest levels of poverty are around the world. It's not a coincidence that you see, these sort of hotbeds of terrorism, these terrorist training camps in places where people believe they have no hope, right?
That's right. That's right. And that was one of the things that I was working on as the Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice, because we acknowledged that it wasn't, terrorists didn't recruit sort of equally amongst all parts of society. They would prey on those who come from communities that couldn't get access to good education, that couldn't get access to jobs, right? That were stuck in these cycles of poverty. And we know that because of racism, which is global, these tended to be communities that were either Black, Indigenous, Roma, Dalit caste, or some other marginalized racial or ethnic communities. And so when we did not acknowledge the racial or ethnic lens to that problem, we were missing out on better solutions. And so for them to just kind of cast away my work as quote unquote woke, first of all, what does that even mean? Second of all, it's just
enlightened. That's what it means. It means enlightened.
But like, I just hate how they just use that term and then people move on and like, oh yeah, it was woke. They're anti-woke. Like, no, force them to say, what are you talking about? Like, explain to me what you're talking about, right? Because what I was doing was actually in our national security interest.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of our national security interest, we have ships deployed around as a part of our, strategic support of allies and of our own U.S. interest. And so you would think that the U.S. Defense Secretary would be more preoccupied with the positioning of these ships. But no. He's more focused on the names on the ships, particularly the name of LGBTQ civil rights pioneer Harvey Milk. The New York Times reporting that the U.S. may strip Harvey Milk's name from a Navy vessel. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered the Navy to review the names of vessels honoring prominent civil rights leaders, including Harvey Milk, who was one of the country's first openly gay elected officials, and Navy veterans. It doesn't stop there. I'm not surprised he's doing this during Pride Month, a time to celebrate the contributions of luminaries like Harvey Milk. What do you make of this move, particularly as DC welcomes LGBTQ folks from around the world for World Pride?
I can't even make it make sense because it doesn't make sense. It's just so silly. I can think of a million other things that are so much more important that I would want my Secretary of Defense to be focused on instead of focusing on like taking away names of, again, American heroes, from the ships. It just is a distraction. And I think it's just a really dangerous insight into what they see as important, right? Like, why are you not focused on, I don't know, the other threats that are facing us right now? I'm sure there are significant threats coming from our adversaries, right? And that deserves attention. Why focus on changing the name of a ship named after Harvey Milk, especially during LGBTQI+ month? Like, it feels like a silly distraction. And unfortunately, that doesn't surprise me. But I also will say it's very concerning because, as always, whenever they come for one, it never stops there, right? Like, the LGBTQI+ folks, that's just the canary in the coal mine, because in that same article, the New York Times goes on to talk about the other ships that are now under review, ships that are named for people like Thurgood Marshall, Cesar Chavez, right? Like, these are American heroes.
Medgar Evers, John Lewis, right? And so this is a part of this attempt to erase our history.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker and representative from San Francisco, said, quotes, "Our military is the most powerful in the world, but this spiteful move does not strengthen our national security or the warrior ethos. It is a shameful, vindictive erasure of those who fought to break down barriers for all to chase the American dream."
That's right. I couldn't have said it better. And I think the erasure piece is really the significant point. This is par for the course of what we've seen this administration trying to do, right? Erase Black people, erase LGBTQI+ folks, erase Latinos, erase anyone who doesn't fit their mold of what quote unquote an American is or should be. In their minds, we don't matter. Our histories don't matter and somehow isn't part of American history. And we know that that's false. Then they can't erase us, right? Like, we're going to be here.
We ain't going nowhere. And you would think that the president who survived an assassination attempt would be a bit more sensitive to an elected official who did not survive an assassination attempt, that being Harvey Milk. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to Desirée Cormier Smith, co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. Desiree, quickly, where can people go to tap in?
Come to our website, www.thealliancefordiplomacyandjustice.org. It is that simple. You can also Google us. We would love to hear from you. There's a contact form. One of the things that we're really putting a lot of emphasis on is engaging with the American public about foreign policy and why it matters. But we also want to hear back from y'all. What do you think America's role should be in the world, right? What is your understanding of foreign policy, of foreign assistance? So this is not, I really am excited about the public engagement piece of this initiative, just as much as the advocacy piece.
Our thanks to Desirée Cormier Smith. Can't wait to talk to you again, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, The Quiet Part Out Loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Attention Los Angeles County renters and landlords. Starting January 1st, 2025, there are new rules limiting rent increases for rent-stabilized units in unincorporated LA County. Most rent-stabilized units will have rent increases capped at 2.565% from January through June 2025, with exceptions for qualified small property landlords and luxury units. To learn more about the new changes, visit rent.lacounty.gov. This message is brought to you by Los Angeles County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah. The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. It's time for the quiet part out loud. Look, we talk oftentimes about gun violence on this show because we know that Black folks are at the top of the list in terms of the most impacted by gun violence in this country. But we're not just going to talk about the violence. We're going to talk about people doing something about the violence. The Guardian reporting that Trump's funding cuts are leaving at-risk youth more vulnerable to gun violence. There's a story in The Guardian about a woman named Frederick Womack. Frederick Womack and his team, he and his team can be found scattered throughout Jackson, Mississippi, talking to groups of young Black men and teens, whether they're working, which bills need to be paid at their home, and if any brewing conflicts are at risk of turning violent. Through these conversations with young men who are both perpetrators and victims of much of the city's violence, Womack hopes that he can help steer them in a different direction. You see, Womack is the co-founder of the nonprofit Operation Good, which, in addition to his work on the streets, it hosts a youth summer program and trash cleanups and helps teen boys find odd jobs like cutting the lawn so that they can earn a few bucks instead of resorting to crime for income. It also offers critical resources for the community, like buying school clothes for kids and paying utility bills for families that can't afford them, though it's, they can't do everything, but they are making a big difference. they're making a big difference through their It Takes a Village program. It is critical work in a city with outsized violence and poverty. You see, last year, 111 people were killed in the predominantly Black city of 140,000. That year, Jackson had a homicide rate nearly double of the rest of Mississippi and 16 times higher than the rest of the United States. At the same time, more than a quarter of its residents live below the poverty line, more than double the national average. So you see, Womac's work is critical, and it's making a difference. In the years since the pandemic, which saw nationwide surges of gun violence, the homicide rate started to tick down, a change that city officials have attributed in part to the work of community-based groups like Operation Good and their collaboration with the police. But now that work is in jeopardy, as Operation Good is among the many gun violence prevention programs across the United States whose work will be significantly hampered or eliminated altogether thanks to sweeping federal cuts. Make no mistake, there's nothing about these federal cuts that is surgical. There is a wrecking ball that it's making its way from community to community. I don't think we're prepared for an America without programs like these. We'll have to leave it here. My thanks to the entire village helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, my brother, Andy, as well as our show producers, Faraji and Art, and of course, each and every one of you, our leaders, learners, and listeners. We love you. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Remember, do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai. See you tomorrow.